Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me on my stream today. We are going to be talking about sound effects library options for audio post-production. So I've covered this a little bit in the past. I think a channel member requested a kind of refresh on it. So as you start on a project, whether it is like your own short film or a feature film, documentary, YouTube video, if you're editing it, maybe you're directing and producing it too, you're going to get to the point where you probably need to add some sound effects. The other side of that is if you are just doing audio post-production, maybe you're helping a buddy out or you got hired to do audio post on a series or a show, you will at some point need to add sound effects. Maybe you're just being hired as a sound effects editor, so it's really all you need to focus on. And you're going to need a tool to collect all of your sound effects or cloud-based sound effects and then be able to search them and plug them into a timeline. So I'm not going to be spending time in a DAW for this, not Pro Tools or DaVinci or anything. We're just going to be looking at sound effects and how to kind of collect them and organize them. And I'm not great at organization, so I'm definitely more of a messy garage person. Like my garage, I just went through it and reorganized it. But it's still like, if another mechanic came in there, they'd be like, dude, good luck finding a 10mm socket. So I have gone basically 100% over to Soundly. I just upgraded my computer and I haven't installed SoundMiner. But I used to use SoundMiner. I've also used Basshead, and Audio Finder is another one. I think Audio Finder might be Mac only. But Soundly is what I recommend. They don't sponsor me or anything. They've never contacted me. I just really like their application. And I like the kind of minimalist aesthetic of it. It seems to work really good. I've had a couple of glitches with it. But overall, it's just a really nice and affordable way to get started with sound effects. So it's Soundly. Maybe I can pull up their website just so you can see. Yeah, and you type anything into a search engine and there's like ads for the competition. So here's this. Make sure you guys can see that. So yeah, it's for Mac and Windows. Let's see what their pricing is. $15 a month. And you can also do a 24-hour license if you're just doing a one-off. And there's a free version too, so you can download it and check it out and see if it fits. But for $15 a month, even though we all have the monthly subscriptions we pay for, I think it's just a no-brainer. So we got Javier. Nice. Oh yeah, it was cold. It's been cold. It's been just above freezing. So I've been, I walk the kids to school in the morning, and I figured my head's still cold, so I'll wear the fallout cap. So yeah, this is their website, and this is not a Soundly ad. It's just if I use something that I really like, then I will tell you guys about it. Okay, so for Soundly, you can do tabs for search. I'll just go through the features. So what Soundly is a sound effects library application, and you can make personal collections. There's Soundly collections. So it comes with its own cloud library, which is great. And then you can do a local and a network library. I have my sound effects library on a network drive so that if I'm on my laptop, I can access files from it. And that's, I think, a great way to go if you have like a home studio or personal studio or even a facility. Just have your sound effects on a network drive so that you can hit them from different computers. So let's just look at the cloud library and kind of see what, like if I type punch, let me see. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear this. Let me see. No, you can hear it on. So this is something good to show too. Go to output. It's going to the Audient Aurea. Let's send this out to Pro Tools Audio Bridge. I think Yeah, you guys can hear it now. I can't hear it, but you guys can hear it. I'm not going to monitor it just because that way you guys get the nice clean sound from that. So if I remember correctly, maybe I will monitor this just low. A lot of their punch sounds are kind of realistic sounding, like they're not super designed. Yeah, those are pretty slappy. I'm just looking at the comments. Kevin Broman says minus 24°C. Probably Fahrenheit, right? Minus 24°C is like soup. I mean, maybe. I guess it could be that cold. That seems very cold. Okay. So here's some more design punches that have like an unrealistic low end. So yeah, they're, you know, they are what they are. So yeah, this is just the cloud library. There's a little cloud on all of those. But what I will normally do is search both cloud and network, because then I can get, my network drive is going to show up as like a Oreo sandwich cookie. And I've got, I think, 2 terabytes or so of sound effects. So it does kind of mix them in, but you can sort by library. You can see I've got Hollywood Edge and Sound Ideas and all the standard stuff. You can sort by length or sample rate or description. So metadata is something that you'll find is super important when it comes to sound effects libraries. And if you buy a sound effects library, it should come with the metadata intact so that you can sort and make collections, and you know, you have like, you can tag stuff like all the I'm trying to remember what that, there's some fancy letter and number term for that. UCF, I think, is what a lot of libraries use to organize their sounds. So all that information is pretty important if you're organized, and I recommend try to be organized. That's like a huge weakness of mine, is I am not very organized, and it's something that I've been fighting my whole life. Is I just like to get to work. So it's kind of like, get everything else out of the way and let me get to work and do it, you know. And the organization, I've found that it gets so disorganized that you can't do it. Like, it gets in the way of your work. So I've stepped back from just bull in a china shop. You know, like, I'm trying to tag stuff when I record it. And that's really where an application like this helps, is once you start adding your own sounds in, you can make all kinds of different collections. You can see I've got stuff organized based on the project I recorded it for, or the brand that, you know, the sound effects came from. So I've got like my Tom effects folder here, and I've got different things. Do I have folders? I've got subfolders. So ambience and animal stuff. And some of these were from, yeah, some of these are from freesound.org. These ones with the numbers in front. These were just, I think I collected them for like a project. I've got the Atwater Village stuff I recorded when I lived there. Got some car stuff. There's a lot of, what's this? Oh, that's right. I bought this library, the BMW library. This should really not be, this is a good example. This is not super organized. I did this movie called, was it the shark movie? No. It was a movie, gosh, what was it? It was like, I'm going to have to look this up. In fact, I might not have even added it to my IMDb, but it was like, was it Executioner or something? It was like a, let me see here. I did sound effects for this. Not that one, 911. There, I did Deep Blue Sea 3 or 4, and then there was also like a, oh, was it after this one? There was some movie where it was like an action movie, and it was an Arnold Schwarzenegger where he was like a secret agent, but they did a version 2 of it. I'm going to have to look this up because I don't see it on here. I need to add more stuff to, yeah, that was actually really fun. Anyways, there's a whole thing with this guy, and there's a shipping container, and so I went to a shipping container and recorded stuff, 96K 32-bit floating point. So these are really useful. There's like different footsteps inside. Some pounding and stuff. So, you know, I've got my own set of sound effects that I've recorded. I did a whole bunch for this animated Night of the Living Dead, which was animated by the team that did that heavy Metalocalypse. Yeah. So, and I, you know, tried to label it with the microphone I used and what the sound is, and naming the files what it is, instead of having it be like recording 1, recording 2, like do a descriptive name, and then you can do stereo or mono or what mic was used. It just helps you kind of remember the sounds. I'm going to go through some comments real quick. Let's see. Kevin says, for real, minus 24C centigrade. That is crazy. UCS, thank you, Mike. Yeah, UCS. Okay, this is a good question. I have a question. Do bigger sound studios have massive collection for all, so you as an employee don't have to care about sound effects, if not a bigger project or other way? Yes, so generally, if you're working for a post house, that's what we call those studios in the US. If you're working for a post house, they will have a centralized network sound effects library that all the sound editors can access. So it gets a little bit dicey when it comes to the licensing aspect of it, because some people will steal those sounds, and you're kind of breaking the law if you do that. So those sounds not only have to stay with the studio, but some of the libraries actually have in the contract that you can't send them basically in a session outside of the facility that has the license. So I've mixed projects where the sound library had that, one of the sound libraries or multiple had that agreement with the sound designer. And so all the sound designer was able to get me was mixed stems. Like, they couldn't send me a Pro Tools session with individual files, because in the license agreement it said you can't do that. It has to be consolidated, like basically mixed down, and you can't share individual elements. So check the license agreement on everything that you buy. Read the fine print. I know it takes an extra 5 minutes, but you're really not supposed to send Pro Tools sessions with some of these libraries. You really have to do a mix down of stems. So yeah, good question. Sometimes if you're hired by a production or hired by a studio, in the US anyways, a lot of people are working from home, and so you're not going to have access to that. And so it is on the contractor, meaning you as a freelancer or a permalancer or whatever, it's your responsibility to have those libraries, and it gets expensive fast. Like, there's been years where I've spent, like a couple $1,000s just on sounds. Not making a library from scratch, just adding sounds to my library. Because, a certain show, like I don't have a 57 Bell Air set of recordings. And vehicles is something where you really, you have to kind of pay for them, because it's going to be cheaper to spend $500 to buy, like, I'll show you one I had to buy here. Gosh, there's so many in here. It was, let me actually search for it, because it's a Ford LTD. So I worked on this, this indie film. Gosh, it was called something Wisconsin, and there was a Ford LTD in there. And the Ford LTD, I'll actually find it on the website. I really like asoundeffect.com. Again, not sponsored. I just like, even though the website's slow, like it takes a while to load, and it takes a while when you click on stuff. They have a great collection. It's a small company that basically coalesces all these sound effects, and they usually have good prices, good deals. The website is slow. That's like the one knock on it. But I'll show you. Okay, it's a Ford LTD Crown Victoria, 1990. So I needed this vehicle because this station wagon was actually in the show, and it was such an important part. It was a road trip movie, and so these pole position production recordings, they do a bunch of microphones, 12 onboard channels, 13 exterior channels with buys and starts and all the gear shifts and all the Foley stuff you need. And you know, it's $250. How much would it cost for the production to send me out with my gear to record this? It's going to be a lot more than that. So it's just better for everybody if I just spend the money. And even I would send this to the production, say, hey, I really need this library. Can you guys buy it? And then I get to keep it, or you get to keep it and I get to use it for this project, or just buy it yourself, you know. But you know, it's like almost 20 gigs of material and 46 minutes. They're raw recordings, so you'd have to process them, but you know, this goes into my library and I have it to where I can use it for other projects. So that is kind of an important thing to do. You can see here, it's got the microphones labeled RE50, MKH 8020, DPA mics for the interior and engine mics. So really good to spend your money, support the recordists that are out doing this stuff, because you know, they have invested in their gear, their time to record these libraries. So I like to, you know, it's just part of the business, like pay them back for their hard work. Okay, so more comments. Let's see. Yeah, Mike, there's going to be a little bit of doubling on playback. I'm not going to play a bunch of sounds, but I'm going to have to mute my mic to play back. And I, you know, really just want you guys to hear that there's something going on. What great sound libraries that you would recommend? Pole position, the recordist. Yeah, the recordist is, I'll show you his website. He lives in the next state over from me, Idaho, and he records this stuff on his ranch and like local airfields and stuff. He had a collaboration with Charles Maines, or Chuck as we affectionately know him in the industry. And they're great. I have his some of his Thunder libraries, and I think some of his bullet buys. The weapons he records are done really well. So they're not priced too bad either. Like, you know, anytime I need a like specific weapon, I will buy it, because some shows, like, they're really particular. They want the real sound, and so you have to get, you know, I don't have an Uzi. I wish I had an Uzi, but I don't. So the recordist is really good. The other one that's really good is Boom Library. Their stuff is a little more expensive, but it's good, really good quality. They also have some plugins that, like, they got Signature Series. Let's see how much these are. It's not cheap to start your own sound library. Like, let's see, if you had to, the Ultimate General Sound Effects Library. Sure, let's check this out. You know, if you're starting from zero, expect to spend a lot of money. If you're downloading sounds and paying for them, it's going to cost you a lot. That's why Soundly's great, because you just pay per month, and that's generally what people like to do. So it's $500 per year. Why per year? Oh, because it's a subscription online. Okay. The minimum subscription term is 3 years, so you're going to be on the hook for $1,500. And it's 166,000 sounds. That's not that many. Yeah, I don't know about that. The general library. Yeah. So you could do Boom. There's also, help me out, guys. There's SoundQ. SoundQ is I've demoed, this is from Pro Sound Effects. I've demoed this, and it was good, but it just wasn't gooder than Soundly, so it was well done, but like I feel like you didn't get as much sounds. Let's see what the pricing is on this one. Subscribe, yeah, $5 per sound, or you can subscribe starting at $30 a month. So that's twice what Soundly is. So yeah, good questions. Let me just see what other questions we have. Tonsturm sounds for whooshes. Yeah, the Tonsturm whooshes are good. The other thing, I think Boom has, no, the Tonsturm has actually a whoosh plugin. I'm pretty sure. Yes, so this is a plugin. I think it's actually like a reactor, what are they called? Thing. So you actually perform it, which is really cool. And that's something else that I try to recommend to people is get tools like this that help you make sounds, whether it's a microphone or a plugin or VSTs, whatever it is. Get something where you are creating the sounds, because they're going to be so much better than just drag and drop from a library. Okay. This is from Elan again. If I purchase the sounds when I work in post-production house or different company as a freelancer, would the company have to buy the sounds as well so they don't run into licensing issues? That's where you get into, you have to read the fine print, because if the agreement says you can't share individual sounds, or you can't distribute individual sounds, technically you should not be sending a PTX or an AAF with the audio. You should be sending a mix down of the stem so that the sounds can't be reused. So yeah. Mike says, if you need to buy sound effects for a project, do you request budget for that, or is that baked into your fee? It totally depends on the client. Some clients are very open to buying sound effects. They see it as an investment in you as a collaborator, and they also, may take the sounds. They might buy them, download them, and then give you a copy if the license allows for that. But it's also kind of like a perk of the job if they're willing to say, here's a $300 sound effects budget. I've run into that with like my better clients. They're open to paying for a library because they know it's going to improve the finished product of the sound design or the mix. But there's other, I would say 80% of the clients, they're not going to approve that. They just want a flat fee. Here's $5,000 to do sound effects, or here's $8,000 or $10,000 to do sound effects. So make your rate high enough where you can eat the cost of a sound library that is going to make your job easier. Because like this Ford LTD, I could have gone through all of my sounds and cobbled together, a sound set. I could have spent like 4 hours going through all my sounds and getting something that sounded close to a 351 Windsor V8 with a carburetor and with no catalytic converter and with a MagnaFlow muffler, like all the stuff that it would need to have the right sound. But I would still be limited by the amount of sounds. Maybe that's like 10 sounds. So I'd be reusing 10 sounds and I'd have to manipulate them while I edit sound effects. Versus having this $250 library that has, 150 sounds with a lot of variety in mic positions. Well, now I just go here and grab stuff instead of having to manipulate a smaller group of sounds. So I need, generally, if something is featured, I need a wide variety of sounds to make the sound effects interesting and make them realistic and have perspective changes. So general libraries will have like 5 sounds for this V8 engine, and a specialized library will have like 100. So it's worth me taking some of the money they're paying. Sorry, my capture card just glitched. I've been trying to troubleshoot this. It's just plugged in with a USB. I'm not sure if it's the HDMI cable, but I'll be I'll be checking that out when I get time. I'm working right now, so it's kind of hard for me to do that. Anyways, yeah, it's worth it to me to invest the money in improving my library because the end product will be better, which means I'll get more work, which means I can continue in the business. So a big part of running your own business is investing in tools that make you money and not investing money in tools that don't. You know, it's like a mechanic will buy a Snap-on toolbox for 30 grand. That doesn't make you more money. Go to Harbor Freight and get the $5,000 one and save yourself the money. Okay, so Splice has a lot of nice libraries as well if you're interested in music. Yeah, I've used Splice. The licensing can be kind of weird. And Blastwave Effects. Blastwave is also another brand to look at. Yeah, let me just see if there's any other... There's no more questions, so please keep the questions and suggestions coming because I'm going to run out of stuff to talk about pretty quick. This isn't like a big subject to spend, like 2 hours on. So trying to think of other stuff. I didn't really prepare for this, so I apologize for that. This is kind of just off the top of my head. Let me think what else. There's also, so there's recording your own sounds, and then some people will also collect sounds from production sound. So, for example, you might have a show where they had a picture car, and it's kind of a rare car, maybe like an old Roadster or something that you don't have a recording for, and they wisely recorded sound on set. Some people will grab that from production and put it in their library. That is also kind of a legal gray area because the recordings belong to the production. So you might have to work that into your work contract that any sounds in production I can use for my library. They're probably not going to go for that. But just know that's a thing that happens, and people think they can get away with it because it's just footsteps or it's just a car, but just don't do that. You don't want to open yourself up to a lawsuit or burning a bridge with a production. Okay, can you go over how to set up the network library? Sure, I think I remember how I did this. So you go to preferences. Let me just roll with me on this. Operation, waveform, channel selector, export, accessibility. Oh, there's some settings in here with send to DAW that are important. So you can set the handle size. 30 seconds is what I have mine set to. So even if I just highlight that, it's going to send 30 seconds on either side. Okay, it's got Logic and Studio One stuff. Premiere, After Effects, external editor. Okay, local database. So this is the database where it pulls like the list of sounds from. And so you need to have this. I like to have this usually with the sound effects drive and a copy on my computer so that I have a backup. Okay, there's UCS. How did I do this? Maybe it was just simply, I might have just done it in here. I'm gonna have to remember how I did this. I think I set the drive up as a network drive, and that's how I did it. But yeah, database. Here we go. Okay. Thank you for your patience. So new shared network database, and then you use this to point it to your hard drive. So all you do is point it to the drive, and that's it. Like the root drive of where your sound effects are. So I'm not going to do that again because I don't want to mess up what I already have. But that then makes it to where you've got, that guy set up. So that's it. So my library, I've been collecting since college. So it's been like almost 20 years, and it's not super organized. The cloud library they have is pretty well organized on Soundly Pro. this won't cover all your bases, but even if you have 0 sounds in your library, you could do an entire project with just the Soundly Pro subscription. So it's great if you're starting from scratch. You'll have to add specific libraries, and that's one of the strengths of SoundQ, which I showed you, is that you can buy individual sounds. And I've had to do that. Like, I just need this one dirt bike sound for like one shot. So $5, sure, I'll do it. Whereas like Soundly, it comes with the sounds that it does. Anything else you're gonna have to add. With Absentia DX, I noticed they are subscription-based, but they also have perpetual licenses for double. How much of a difference is difference in quality between their new and older versions? Absentia, their updates are worth spending the money for. It's one of my favorite tools, and it gets better every time, so I think it's worth it. Doppler, the Doppler and D-Hum less so. I definitely think the ambience generation, I forget what they call it, but the thing that you use for making room tone, that gets better each time. What are sound effects you can never have enough of? Great question. Whooshes, punches, doors. Doors are huge. Like, I've spent 20 minutes cutting a door to get the perfect door sound with the knob mechanism and coming off the strike and the hinge squeak and letting go of the knob, and then like just there's so many layers that can go into a door. And doors are important. So doors are huge. Animals generally, like varieties of animals, especially high sample rate recordings for processing, are important. Small crowds is another one. If we look here in Soundly Pro at crowds, a lot of, I'm just gonna mute this because we just need to see the waveform. This is a lot of people. This is like 20, 30 people yelling. For indie stuff, they don't have the budget for a lot of extras, so you need crowds with like 5 to 10 people, and that's it. and stuff that would be handled by a loop group. Actually, that might be a good idea for something I could make. I can make a small crowds library. Don't steal that idea. Let me do that, because that's something that I could do with local actors. Because loop group performers, I don't want to say bad stuff about them, but sometimes their performances can be a little lackluster. Like, loop group generally doesn't require, it does require acting chops, but if you're doing it as part of a Walla group, you don't have to bring the heat with, your acting performance. If you're having to do specials or like character doubles or call-outs, that's where, the performance needs to be done. But I don't think you could make you could make a library of call-outs, but that's something I'm going to write down as an idea. That would be really cool. Is a small group library. That's going to take a while. Actually, I know the perfect company I could work with for that. So, okay, more user comments. Can you share some tips on your organization system? It's just names of stuff. I know what I search for, so I try to name my files in the file name what I'm going to be searching for. So impact, hit, roll. Usually it's the action. It might not be a verb, but the description of the action, it's going to be different based on your language and region. But the item that I'm recording, the action the item is doing, and then the microphone and the size of the sound. I might be doing small little taps, and then I might be doing big hits. So I would call it small taps or small hits, big impacts. Like, try to use as many adjectives as you can, but also know what you type in. And really, for libraries, that is the most important thing, is understanding what to search for. If you don't have stuff organized really nice, you have to at least know, just like the analogy of my messy garage, I know where that 10 millimeter is because I put it there. But, you know, I know it because it's mine. So you have to do the same thing with your sound library. Learn it, learn what to search for, and if it's not super organized, it's fine as long as you can find what you're looking for. I'm struggling with finding small crowd wallet and town ambience for my project right now. Everything I find is too big. Yeah, and that is something where having a microphone and being willing to just record stuff yourself comes in really well. I've recorded some great stuff just putting mics in my truck and going for a drive, you know, to like the next town over or this town, and just sitting and listening, and like a small town downtown traffic, one of my favorite sounds that I have. And you can hear the individual cars bouncing off the buildings, you know, and going back and forth. And I'll actually show that one to you. It was in Brownsville. I'm going to mute my mic so you guys can enjoy this without. So even though they're just car buys, like slow, you know, 15, 20 mile per hour car buys, the fact that you can hear the character in the vehicles, like one of the cars had a wheel bearing that was going out. You could hear like the truck bed rattling on another one. The no muffler of the first one. Like those are the type of character sounds that you get when you're recording real stuff. And it's so much more interesting than just the standard whoosh of a car by, you know, the white noise. Okay, so Steve George says, do you get contract agreements with getting crowds for legal chain of title issues? Contract agreements with getting crowds. I don't record, I've recorded a few bootleg crowd recordings, but you generally can't tell what people are saying. So I haven't gotten any, I haven't like gone up to the 100 people or so in the crowd and asked them to sign releases or anything, which is technically a bad idea. So maybe don't do that. But yeah, I don't, there's been maybe 2 films I've done where I had to do a contract that included sound effects licensing to the company, and it's on indie stuff. Generally, there's none of that. On bigger stuff, that's probably a bigger issue, but I don't know. Most of the sound effects editing I do is for stuff where the total budget is under like 15 million bucks. So there's not a ton of contract besides, we want to hire you for this much. Here's your start date. Here's your end date. Here's how much we're going to pay you. How would you mic the car? So I've recorded a few vehicles myself. Generally, I just use the mics that I need. So kind of a good setup to have is you have a mic on the intake, which is under the hood. You have a mic on the exhaust, which is at the rear of the car. And you have at least a stereo pair inside the cab of the vehicle. That gives you, for the front shot as the car is driving towards you, it gives you that. It gives you the exhaust, which tends to be a better sound, a little more low end, and then you have the interior for dialogue stuff. But you're also going to need to record buys. So for buys, I would do an LCR setup with a stereo pair and a shotgun or cardioid mic in the middle, so kind of like that shape, so you can get, a discrete 3-channel recording of buys at different speeds speeds and RPMs, because you can be going very fast, but the engine can be cruising, versus going by really fast and really giving it the beans and having like 5K RPM with the engine screaming as it goes by. So that's why it can take so long to record cars, is unless you know exactly what sounds you need, you have to just record a library of them, which can take a day or two. What setup would you recommend for starting off with field recording and sound effects recording on the go? Just start off with a handheld Zoom. Yeah, I would say get one of the all-in-one. Let me see if I have one. I sort of organized my studio, but did I? Let me see. That doesn't have it. I've got like a little Tascam guy somewhere. You know, I say I organize this, and it's actually not super organized. It's somewhere. It's floating around here somewhere. I've got a Tascam pocket recorder, but I would say just get one with the mics built in. You know, like the Zoom or the Tascam, or let me see actually what's out there right now. Let's go to Sweetwater. Field recorder. Yeah, these are a lot cheaper than the Zooms. Might be okay. Like the Zoom H4 has noisy, or it had noisy mics when I tried it out. DR40, I think this is one of the ones I have. But yeah, one of these with the built-in mics. The Zoom stuff has, I think, gotten better. I would maybe look at like the Tascam Portacapture. Like even the DR07X, you can actually swing these mics out on these ones for like spaced pair or XY. I like XY for sound effects. A lot of people don't. They like spaced pair because it gives them a wider stereo image, and I want the sound effects to be kind of inobtrusive. So I generally will do XY because it's mono compliant. And yeah, but any of these, like, just grab what you can. Get wind protection for it if you're going to be outside. And then if you get one that has XLR inputs, like I think this one, Tascam Portacapture, is going to have, yeah. If you get one with XLR inputs, this one has 2. Yeah, so you could do quad recordings with this, which would be really cool. And actually, you might be able to do 5.0 if you had this, you know, if you went in mic, yeah, you could do a mono here, and then like these could be for the rears and these could be for the front. You could actually slap this on top of a stereo mic, which I've done before, inside a blimp. So you put the recorder in the blimp with the mic, and then you just have to figure out a way to record it. But that way you've got front and rear channels with a stereo mic, and you could even add the center channel with like a shotgun or a hypercardioid. You probably want to make sure the mics are close to matched. The Rode NT4 and NT5 would be what I would pick for LCR if you're on a budget, because then at least the capsules are pretty close. So that would be my suggested setup for that. Okay, so just buy what you can afford. Would you record it in motion or static with the engine going? Yeah, in motion. Just go for a drive. And how can you put it under the hood without running into heating the mic? So generally the way vehicles work, well, not generally, the way they do work is the intake on the engine will suck in the coldest possible air. So wherever the air filter under the engine compartment is where you'd want to set that microphone. And generally on the air filter, there's a cover on top, and on the bottom there's a hole to suck in air from like the fender or front bumper. So you'd want to put the mic there with wind protection so that you get the sound of the intake. And there's a really good example of this in Mad Max 2 Road Warrior. No, it might be they did it in that one, but they also did it in the I think they did it in the first Mad Max as well, but there's a shot over the hood. They did the same thing in Fury Road where there's a supercharger and you can see the supercharger spinning and they have this great suction sound. And that's the sound you want to get, is the air getting sucked into the engine. You can also do a mic on the valve cover, but you'll run into heat issues. So make sure like the cable is wrapped. Make sure that the microphone is somewhat heat resistant, and maybe just cool it off every once in a while so you don't melt it. But yeah, okay. So for crowds, do you prefer recording with the reverb you need baked in or clean recording? To me, the best crowd recordings are just real in the space. So no reverb added to it, but if the crowd was in an arena, it's going to sound like an arena. If the crowd is outdoors, it's outdoors. You can kind of process them to cheat a location, but I just like sounds that are recorded in the space. So really good questions. So I think, let me think if there's anything else. Another use for sound library software is actually production sound. I don't think, yeah, I don't have this. So for Lioness, for example, I was able to grab all the production sound and make a Soundly collection so that I could search for alts. And there's a great piece of software made by Mark Spector. I think Mark Spector did it. Kraken is a dialogue editor's toolkit that kind of serves the purpose of a sound effects library tool, but just for dialogue. And it's really useful. It's great. I've demoed it a couple times, but it didn't do enough for me to put the money down for it. Even though I'm super behind it, like I just have this workflow that I use where I use the sound effects library software to organize alts, and then it really doesn't take me long to find alts. I don't need speech recognition or anything like that. I kind of know where in the take it's going to happen. So I just dump all the production sound in here and then I can search it. So yeah, that's kind of another thing you could use this for is music. If you're a composer or you have a music library that you use, you could download it and use this to organize that. And then it's, that's kind of nice to be able to use the software for multiple things, not just sound effects. So yeah, if you guys have any other questions, please pipe in now. I'm going to sign off in like 5 minutes. I did want to thank the channel members. I think they've kind of given me permission to share our Discord. So we have a Discord for channel members. So channel membership is like, I don't have Patreon or anything like that, and the channel's gotten, it's still small, but it's gotten big enough where it like pays a little bit for like my internet bill, and I mean that's really it at this point. So the channel memberships is a way to get access to this Discord where like I try to go and answer questions every day. But it also is just a way for you guys to help me make more videos, because I want to invest in better gear. I want to invest in, I put Atmos in my studio. I've got an interface, new interface. I did a pretty big upgrade, and you guys watching my videos and subscribing and more so like the memberships is a way to just keep this side of my professional life going, I guess, because I've got my work where I work on TV shows and movies and documentaries, and then YouTube has become like kind of a side business for me. So it's just a way to keep that going, and I super appreciate all the support, comments, like you guys watching the videos, sharing my videos. Even some teachers have shared them with students. Like that, all that stuff is super. I'm really appreciative of that. It's kind of shifted my focus a little bit off of just working to like, well, let me share some of the stuff that you know, I've learned, and hopefully teach the next generation, because the days of getting apprenticeships seem to be pretty much over. People are so spread out and afraid for human interaction that, like, going to a studio, knocking on the door saying, hey, I want to learn this, doesn't really happen anymore. So it's kind of like a way for me to share like a jump start on your audio career. So I just want to say thank you guys for that, especially channel members who've really stepped up. So this is our Discord. You can see there's a lot of questions and answers, and I try to hit everything that I can. But then also other people are answering questions. So it's become like its own little thing where people come here with questions and, you know, stuff they want to know. And it's just like, I think it's great. This kind of reminds me of like the old forums where like you could ask a question and get completely roasted for not knowing the answer, but people have been really nice. I haven't had to do any moderating. So if you're interested in this as a resource, you can join as a channel member, and it should send you a link for this. So yeah, that's that. A couple more questions, and then I'm going to sign off. Can you show how you would add a collection for a dialogue edit? I don't have like a production sound folder on here, but what I would do is click plus, name it, let's call it Kevin's Film Production, production sound, and then I would go to database. Oh no, it's not database, is it? I think I just drag and drop. Yeah, you can do import audio. Yeah, you can do it this way. Okay, so then you drop files or folders from a network library or a local library, and just bring it in. It'll crunch it down for like a minute, and then you have your library, and then you can search for like, you know, scene 5, whatever. So that's how you do that. So I'm going to delete this because I don't need it. Okay. What mics do you recommend for Foley recording? I used to recommend a shotgun mic like this. This is a Sennheiser MKH60. I've had this for a long time. This was my main exterior mic when I was doing production sound. But I found that the downside with a shotgun mic for Foley recording is you're generally doing Foley inside, and it does tend to pick up a little bit more of the room. I mean, it rejects the off axis, but it doesn't reject it in a pleasant way. Shotguns tend to make room sound boxier than they really are because it's an interference design. So the sound goes up, it hits the wall, and it comes down and hits here on this interference tube. And this side axis response is pretty comb filtery. So in a Foley room, generally they're not super dead. They're a little bit live. So then you have to move this mic closer to the source to get less of the room, and that's not good. So I actually recommend just using your favorite LDC, large diaphragm condenser. Neumann mics tend to be a little tappy, a little harsh in the high end. If you have a U87 or U67, use that. But this is just a Rode NT1. So great Foley mic. Use something with super low noise, low self noise, and high SPL, because you'll be recording stuff like, you know, car doors slamming and keys jingling and stuff that's high SPL. So just grab a large diaphragm condenser, use a clean mic pre, make sure the gain is set right, and you should be all set. Another thing Foley recordists do and Foley mixers do is they actually record with input chains. So you're actually not recording the raw signal from the mic, you're recording an EQ'd and compressed and limited sound. And they'll have different presets for different sounds they record. For example, punches, they're gonna limit so that it's not just a little spike. But that's something that just comes with experience. So really good topic to talk about. How important is it to have exact sounds of stuff like weapons and cars? Do you notice in movies where the wrong sound has been used all the time? Really good question, Paul, so thank you for that. Great example was in The Walking Dead. One of the earlier seasons when I used to watch the show, the main guy, gosh, what's his name? The dad, shoots who does he shoot? He shoots one of the main characters, I think, that turned to a zombie in the head with a revolver, and after the gunshot, you hear a brass casing ejected, which revolvers don't do that. You have to crack it open and hit the plunger to knock out the shells. And there's other things like fire rates on automatic weapons can be way off. I'm not like a gun nerd, but I grew up around weapons, so I tend to notice that. And then vehicles is another one. Using a V8 sound for a 4-banger, or cars with too many gears, like it shifts gears 12 times, stuff like that always throws me off. And then unrealistic punches. Punches don't sound like Godzilla stomps. Like they sound. Fight Club is a good example of like real sounding punches. So yeah, I think it's important to have the right sound, but some directors don't want that. They want hyper realism. So you just do what the director wants because it should help the video, or it should help the project sound better. What will be the best tool to use if you can't re-record dialogue? Okay, so that's more of a dialogue editing question. I would say there are some tools for that, dialogue on top of dialogue. Some of the newer AI tools can pull it out a little bit, but generally you're going to have to live with the people in the background. You can paint them out in Isotope, which I could show as well. So I think that is going to do it for me. I covered everything I wanted to. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like I said, I appreciate all the interactions that you guys, like the comments on the videos and showing up to my streams. So as I make more content in the new year, I'm going to keep thanking you guys for that, because it makes this fun for me. It makes it fun for me to Tuesday morning set up, the video and OBS and jump on here and hang out with you guys. I will probably not be doing as many pre-recorded videos because I just started a new project and I've got a couple other projects in the works. So as time permits, I will do those pre-recorded, edited videos. In the meantime, I'll keep with the weekly streams, and when work slows back down, I will do more pre-recorded stuff. If you guys have ideas for that, subjects you want me to cover, just drop a comment, or if you're a member, in the Discord, just ask, and I write them down. I got my list here of video ideas, so I will keep working through them and just try to make content that helps you guys out. So thank you so much. I'm going to sign off.